Hello, my educator family. It is another Strategy Sunday right here as we begin the month of Organized October. Organized because, as educators, we believe that it is very important for us to take charge of our learning environment so that we can make the best of the teaching learning process, not only for ourselves but also for the learners in whom we have control over in this teaching learning process. And so we are looking at classroom management. What are the prerequisites for an effective classroom management? And you may be wondering, classroom management in an online space? Yes, indeed. During the month of September, we had with us several presenters who looked at how we can go about managing the online learning experience in our classrooms. And so we're going a little bit deeper to look at classroom management. And as we all know that classroom management, it is not just unique to a particular country, to a particular set of teachers, whether you are a novice or you are the expert, you're always going to have challenges as it relates to the classroom management aspect of it. And so we all have to be knowledgeable of how it is that we can go about ensuring that our classrooms reflect organization at all times. And so we're going to be looking at the classroom management for the month of October, organized October. And we have a lineup of excellent educators that will take us through. And so for today, I'll be sharing with you on the rules and expectations. So in classroom management, there are four prerequisites, yes, to effective classroom management. One, rules and expectations, and the other, the learning environment, student engagement, and student teacher relationships. And so I'll be looking at the rules and expectations. Now, when we think about rules and expectations, we need to be mindful and be aware that within the classroom, we all have our rules, we have our expectations, we have our procedures, and this is foundation. It's a fundamental part for us to manage our classroom because we need to have clear sets of rules and consequences. And so, for every rule that we have or every expectation, there must be a consequence to it. What will happen if you don't do? What will happen too if you do? So, let us not just look at it as consequences, but also let us pin some rewards to it as well. And we know that we're operating for most part in an online setting. I do know that we have the blended approach that takes place as well. But whichever way we do, there must be clear sets of rules and consequences followed with rewards that will help us to ensure that the teaching learning process is effective. And so when we go about setting our rules and our consequences and our expectations or procedures, whatever it is that we would like to name it, we must remember that the students play an important part in the decision making process. It is believed that when students are a part of setting the rules and expectations, the goals, they will be more likely to obey. Also, in them obeying more, they'll be able to hold their students, their fellow students accountable. And so no one will want to break these rules because they know that they were all a part of the process. It helps them to develop a sense of responsibility, knowing that they have contributed to what is happening, whether it is good or bad. And so you are able as a teacher to hold them to that. So I usually say to educators, when you begin your class for the new term, the new school year, ensure that you have a set of rules, you have the consequences, and also the rewards that will go with this, because it also helps you to have a smooth flow as you progress in the teaching learning process. And so, as we would have said, that in the foundational part of it, that when we have set these goals and we have set these expectations, it makes it easy for you to manipulate as the teacher in the classroom. Now, when we go about setting our rules and our expectations, we need to remember that there is a rule of thumb that oversees such. And the rule of thumb is that we create a minimum of 5 to a maximum of 8 rules, and we keep them for each class. What do I mean by this? It makes no sense as the educator you're having 15 rules that governs one class. It is better to have 5 or to have 8, and those are held accountable. These are rules and expectations that the students will remember. They are short, they are to the point, and it will allow the students to interact with it more, be able to appreciate it more, and also for you as educator to remember too. And so when the rules are there, when the expectations are there, you are able to hold them accountable because you are not going to forget. Many times we can testify that we set our rules in our classrooms, and then there goes a point in time when Johnny decides to do something that is not necessarily in alignment. And sometimes the students have to remind us, Miss, remember that you said no one should do this or no one should do that. All right. And so because of that, you want to ensure that it is resting in your memory, and it is also resting in the memories of the students as well. Another part to setting these rules and expectations is that we be positive. Be positive, use positive words. So instead of do not, don't say do not talk in the class. You may go about by saying listen when someone else is speaking. So you take out the harsh negative part of it, the dictator part of it, and you replace it with positive words. You replace it in such a way that the students will be able to grasp and to realize without even pinning it as a rule, because it doesn't have the word do not. Right? And that is very important. Now, as was outlined earlier, each rule must have a consequence. So if you speak out of terms, this is what will happen. You'll be removed from the online space, and you'll be put into the waiting room for 5 minutes or 2 minutes. You will not be allowed to participate for the next 10 minutes in class. You won't be able to participate in the next class that we have, the introductory activity. These are things that you can do to hold the students responsible and to hold them accountable. And it is important that it must take a repetitive approach. So it cannot be that today you start out with these expectations, but then by the time you get to November, they're out the door. By the time you get to January, you remember them no more. No, it must be set in such a way that it carries you through the entire year. Remember that students look to us for guidance, and if we are not providing that guidance that they need, they're going to realize and they become disorganized. When you set clear rules, when you set clear objectives, when you set clear expectations, students become more organized and they're willing to participate in whatsoever it is that you are doing in the classroom. And so that is very important for us as educators, that as we go through this online setting, that we are having these things that will help us to navigate, and also to help the students to navigate as well. Now, another aspect to the rules and expectations is that because you have an organized way in which you are going about presenting these rules, presenting these procedures, these observations, what is it that you want from the students, it helps them to be organized, and in the end they become successful because they're able to predict what should come next. You'd have set an outline that once you're through with your classwork, then you can move on to reading the next topic. You can move on to completing the activity, so they know what should take place each step of the way. And because they're able to predict what comes next, they become organized in their approach, and by being more organized, they have things well put together. It helps them to become more successful at what they do within the teaching learning environment. At the beginning of class, when you would have set your rules and your expectations and these procedures and all that you need for the students to understand and to navigate the classroom, is that there must be an outline each day. Similarly to when we plan our lessons and we go to our classrooms, that we are saying to the students, these are the objectives that we're going to be uncovering for today. This is what we're going to be looking at. These are the activities to be done. If you teach at the upper school level, you may want to say say to them, this is what is going to be done in preparation for the SBA. When we complete this part of it, these are the things that we need to be doing. So there's an outline that follows each day, each topic that you begin, each activity, each class session. You are giving them a rundown of the running order. When you do scripts and you're doing videoing, you give them a running order what is going to happen, and this will help the brain too to process and to stay alert in what it is that you are doing. And so you may be saying, but we're in the online setting, are all these necessary? Yes, they're necessary even now more than ever, because it is a time in which students themselves, they are confused, educators themselves, we are sometimes overwhelmed with what is going on. And so when we go to managing our classrooms, we have to set clear goals and objectives. We have to ensure that there are rules there that will govern what is it that we are doing as educators to make the best of the teaching learning process. And so I would have shared with you our first feature in the month of Organized October, prerequisites to effective classroom management, and we have just covered rules and expectations. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you also for sharing the videos, for liking them, for commenting. We really appreciate them. And there are educators who can testify that indeed what has been shared on this channel has been beneficial to them. And so we want to continue on that path to empower you educators. And while we are empowering you, you're also going out to empower the nation's children, to empower the children within the world. Because I do know that we're not only limited to the Jamaican setting. We have persons from Canada, from Europe, from England, different viewers on who listen in and they provide their feedback as well. Thank you so much, educators, and I wish for you a successful school year. And as we think about the classroom being online, how can we manage it effectively? And so this is why we're having this feature this month in Organized October. Looking forward to seeing your comments below. Looking forward to you sharing and watching the videos. And please, as you notice that there are commercials that come up, please watch them. They will be helpful to us here as well. And so walk good, take care, and do your best as you educate those who are around you.